SCA basically is an organization that is dedicated to developing young conservation leaders. And they do that in a variety of different ways, but mostly it involves young people, teenagers and young adults living in community and doing conservation projects in parks across the country. SCA had always measured its success based on its impact on the environment. So they came to Search to think about this whole issue, to think about themselves as a youth development organization. Who are they to these youth? What does this experience mean to the people who participate? And how can they be intentional about their impact on young people? And how can they measure their impact on young people as well as their impact in the environment? The most exciting part of this project, besides being able to work with young people doing cool work in state and national parks, is that we've been able to work with SCA in a multi-phased mixed method study. And so that started with an exploratory study where we did interviews and focus groups with participants in these programs and the leaders of these groups, just to learn what's happening here with what effect. What do young people experience, and how do they think they're different because of that experience? And then from there we developed a theory of change, and we realized that there were certain things that were pretty common across all these experiences that were important to the outcomes. But there were certain things that were more variable, and therefore that was something we could focus on and say, all right, well, if those things were more consistent, then just think about what these outcomes would be. What SCA decided to do is say, all right, what we need to do, our goal is to make these variable inputs more common. So we worked with them to train leaders to really be intentional about the youth development aspects of what they're doing, and to recognize that, oh, you know what, we help them recognize help the crew leaders recognize some of the powerful things that kids are getting out of this, so they realize this huge opportunity they have to make this huge impact in the life of a kid. Things like what we call a thriving orientation, this sense of agency, I can do anything, you know, that translates from the woods into all these other things that they do, you know, that they have this huge experience, this huge opportunity to impact a young person in that way, and to help them recognize that one of the huge ways that this stuff happens is through relationships, and this notion of developmental relationships. We learned that the very things that we had become intentional about training crew leaders on really were the things that made a difference in the outcomes, because statistically we learned that when participants experienced those things, they had stronger outcomes. So that validated a hypothesis that was really developed from the qualitative, and we were able to then build into the training for the system to really produce the kind of outcomes we wanted to produce. And that's what mixed methods work is all about, and that's what was just so beautiful about this whole study.